Hey, welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking Business and Family. I'm Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting, and I'm your host for this podcast. And on this episode, we are sitting down with one of our owner-operators again, and we're going to visit with him and talk about his success story. I'm looking forward to that because you got some interesting things to discuss. He says he doesn't, but, we'll determine that. After it's all said and done, it always is good. Got Megan Cummings back in the seat, helping me out today. What's going on?
The usual, living the dream.
Where were you the last one?
Which one was the last one? Oh, there was
Marlin, Lindo.
Okay, so can we just agree to blame Corey Huey on that one?
Is that what it was?
Yeah. Honestly, that's a good idea for any future.
Blame Corey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we'll blame Corey. We'll let Corey take the fall on that one.
I tried to cover for you a little bit, and because a lot of it was probably my fault. Actually, it was, I think, part Annabelle. She said, we got to get this done. Let's get up there and get this done.
We can do a three-way blame. That's fine with me.
She said, no. No, but good. Everything good over in your world?
Everything's good. Business as usual.
Business.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Busy.
I know it's been, it's really picked up, been a lot better here lately.
Yes.
Last couple of weeks, so things are looking good, looking up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Couple things. We've got, of course, our sponsors we talk about every week, Arrow Truck Sales. Matter of fact, did you buy a truck from Arrow?
Yes,
Adrian?
I did.
Okay, we may touch on that a minute too. Talk about those guys and how we've been partnerships for years now and taking care of people after the sale on the trucks and during it. And Keith does a great job, and I know you deal with Keith and Amy a lot too. So the paperwork process is seamless. Like butter.
Yeah.
It is good. At Lube Zone, those guys, I really don't hear from a lot of our owner-operators that use Lube Zone. You ever used them, Adrian?
No, sir, I have not.
I know there's not that many locations, but those guys have been, I've never heard anything bad about them. Mm-hmm. Everything I hear is good about Lube Zone, and I don't think there's enough of them.
Yeah.
They need to step it up and get some more locations maybe.
Absolutely.
But anyway, check out our sponsors. Those guys have been good to us since we started this podcast, almost 4 years ago. I mean, we're on episode 215? 216. So, I mean, we have come a long ways. If you'll go back and look, I was actually going back and looking at our old podcast years ago and trying to just get some different ideas, maybe revisit some people of different things that we might ought to do again. I was like, oh my gosh, this was terrible. Back, and I'm probably a year or two from now, we'll look at this one and go, that was terrible. That was stupid. Why did we do it that way? But it just makes you realize how far you've come with this podcast, and it's just been a great tool for us in recruiting and retention. And more than that, the best part of these when we do one with our owner operators and we can put out their story because it's their actual story that you're hearing, and it relates to people. Other truck drivers can relate to it, and it's been really good. I'm afraid though what's going to happen, Megan, is truck drivers are going to quit coming to the yard because we hijack.
You're the first one as soon as you come in the door too.
Adrian's like, I wished I'd never come in here today. But we start to. We see people and we think it's a great story, and we try to get them on the podcast, and it works out almost every time. It works out great. So
got a lot of interesting people that you work with every day, and you just have no idea.
So I told Annabelle, I said, we got 920 owner-operators. You can't tell me there's an endless amount of stories there. Yeah. Just getting them to sit down here.
I wanted to mention that as well. I know we kind of talked about it last week about comments and stuff like that. We're always looking for ideas for podcasts as well. Guests on the podcast. But, something that you'd like to hear about, we haven't really gone over this, or we don't really talk about this enough, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Comments, that comment form that we were talking about,
yes.
Facebook, YouTube comments, TikTok, stuff like that.
Need to put some of that out there, give us some of that information. Mm-hmm. We did ask a question on the last episode. Actually, it's coming out today, so we haven't had a chance for it to hear replies because we're recording this before that one comes out asking that question. But we're going to try to do that on every episode, ask a question to our listeners, and then kind of encouraging them, enticing them to respond.
I have a comment of the week, top comments, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Special shout out.
All right, let's get right on into Adrian Guillot. Said that right, didn't I?
Yes, sir.
From Louisiana.
Yes, sir. A little town called Iowa, Louisiana. It's spelt just like the state of Iowa, but we pronounce it Iowa.
I figured that out the hard way. We had an owner-operator a couple months ago, and I was calling him Friday before he came in for orientation. I said, that's in Iowa, Louisiana? And he said, actually, it's Iowa. And I was like, and then we had a discussion about it next week whenever he came in. I was like,
right.
Is that where you're from originally?
Not originally, no. I grew up about 15 miles from there, out in the country, out in the middle of a bunch of rice fields. And then just grew up out there, and I've moved there probably since 2001 or 2002. I've been living in there ever since then.
You're a country boy?
Yes, ma'am.
I had no idea, Adrian. I thought you were a Yankee.
Why would you think that?
I don't know. I really did.
Why did you whisper that?
I don't know. I had no clue. I thought you were from the northeast corner of the states.
No, ma'am.
Maybe I don't know. I have no idea. That's my bad. I'm really sorry.
You're still learning all your accents, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe I got a little tinge of that.
I don't really have a Louisiana accent like most people do.
That's true.
That's true. It was, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
There's people I don't understand. And I've lived there my whole life. I don't understand them. The ones that are deep in
those raging Cajuns.
Cajun culture, North Louisiana.
Yeah, that's a whole nother deal there.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that either. I've heard some of it, but I don't know what they said.
Right.
What's going on in your life right now, Adrian?
Just a lot of work and keeping up with my grandson. I have a wife. I'm 42. I got a wife with 3 kids, a grandson, an awesome daughter-in-law, and my grandson's 3 years old. And he runs the house whenever I'm home. We try to go see him or have them come visit us. And
they live close by?
Oh, yeah, like 15 minutes away from the house. Yeah, so my wife used to watch them a lot when my daughter-in-law was working, but luckily they've made it to where they were financially able where she didn't have to work anymore. So she's a stay-at-home mom now, so we don't get to see him a lot, just once a week now instead of a couple times a week like we used to. So we try to get him for the day.
He like to climb up in that truck?
He does. Matter of fact, I was telling you earlier, I had my truck in the shop this past weekend. So when he come home, it wasn't there, and he was kind of looking for it, wanting to see it. So I told him when I come back home, I'll make sure I'll bring it home so he can climb in there and hold on to that steering wheel.
Yeah. Already asking about it.
Right. Yes.
So you're an Oakley owner-operator. How long you been here?
Almost a year and a half.
Okay. So
I started in April of last year.
On Pneumatic division?
Pneumatics. Started in Pneumatics.
You had prior experience in Pneumatics before you came here. So that's good. Pneumatics is a whole different world. A lot of people ask about that. Can you get somebody on the podcast that's doing pneumatics? Because we don't get a lot of that,
right?
Because we don't have just a whole lot of them. We got about 200 pneumatic owner operators out there on the road. So the pneumatic business is a little something different, isn't it?
It is. It is. At my old job, I kind of swore it was something I would never want to do full time because I was kind of a multi-purpose employee. I did end dumps, crude oil, motor oil hauling, and they started a pneumatic division, and I was one of the only people who had experience already. So I would train like 4 or 5 people, and then I went back to hauling crude oil, which I was already doing. And I was like, it's not something I want to do full time. And whenever I decided to come over here, I was looking at how the pay was and everything, and I was like, well, I guess it is going to be something I'm going to do full time because I'm coming in straight into pneumatics, and we'll see how it goes,
What's this different about pulling a pneumatic tank?
You really have to you really have to think a lot especially when you're loading or really unloading for sure. There's pressures you have to keep an eye on. The customers, a lot of them, they'll have a limit of 8 psi, 12 psi. Knowing your products, certain products they unload better at 8 psi, even if that particular customer doesn't have a limit on their line. You can push it 15 if you want, but it's not going to unload as good as if you keep it at 10 or 11. It just flows better.
For our listeners out there, we say pneumatic, and sometimes that's a foreign word, to a lot of people. Like, what are we talking about? And I'm just trying to visualize for people that don't understand that. I mean, it's an enclosed tank,
right,
that you put dry product in. It's all dry, whether it's catalyst, fly ash, soda ash, salt, whatever,
sand.
It's all dry product that you put in this tank through the hose at the top. So there's one right there. And you put the product in the hose at the top. Well, so now you got this product inside this tank, and how you gonna get it out of there? So you have to have a blower on your truck,
right,
to run that off of your transmission with gearing up, at a certain RPM,
right,
to create pressure in the tank. So it just creates so much pressure in the tank because you're blowing air into it, and then you open the valve and it lets the product fall down into the product line. Correct, Adrian? And then you're blowing it's blowing air out through this. How big are the tubes?
It's like a 4-inch line. It's a chemistry. It's almost like a science experiment. You have air coming out of the blower, and once it comes to the trailer, it can go 3 different ways. You can have it run straight into the tank. You can have it run to your aerators or vibrators on the cones, or you can have it run to your product line that actually pushes the product out. The trick is to learn where all 3 of those valves need to be every load you have, because different products require more top pressure.
Gotcha.
Some products you don't really need any top pressure. You just let the gravity of the weight of the product blow it out. You don't want to, some of it's like real fluffy. So you don't want to put a lot of vibrator pressure or aerator pressure in there, because it keeps the product moving too much at the bottom where it's trying to come out. And you'll be there all day just playing around.
It takes some experience.
It does.
Because when it comes out the back of the trailer, out that line, I mean, there's no telling how far you've got to push that product through that line.
Right.
Whether it's like a customer's facility, they don't want you going more than a certain PSI because you'll mess something up on their end.
Correct. They have dust collectors. A lot of places that have those low PSIs, it's because it messes up their dust collectors, or it's because you're pushing so far. You'll have your product that may be like a 25. Our valves have 4 notches. I call them 20, a quarter, a half, and 3/4, and wide open. You'll have the product at a quarter, and another customer you can run it at 100 and unload it. No problem. But because that one customer, you have to pump the product so far, you have to unload it at a quarter so you don't fill up the product with so much product. You want more air in that line to keep it moving so it doesn't get clogged up.
How long does it take you to unload?
On average, an hour, hour and a half.
Okay.
Some places it can get to be 3.5 hours. Where I'm going, when I leave here, it's notorious for taking 4 hours to unload.
Yeah.
It's a very long process, and you want to be extra careful. You don't plug up. I've had other operators there tell me last time I went that one of our drivers had plugged up, and he was there for 24 hours.
Oh my!
They had to get the maintenance crew involved and start taking lines apart to try to get it unplugged.
Does that just mean
you want to unload on the side of caution and just take it nice and slow?
Is that just plugging up your line, or
that's their line? It's that particular place. It's like probably 75 yards from the trailer, where it tends to want to plug up. There's 15 turns in the pipe.
So
at this refinery.
So for those people that we just lost, that are thoroughly confused,
me,
that we, thought about what am I listening to this episode? I did get off the rails there a little bit just because the pneumatic is, we kind of know, we talk it every day, but a lot of our listeners have no idea what a pneumatic tank is. But to the point, it's you got to have somebody that is sharp, that's paying attention, that knows what's going on, and able to deal with our customers, every time, because it sounds like it's different every place you go. So
it is.
Back on the rails here on the episode and talking about your success story. How'd you get into trucking in the beginning?
I grew up. My dad was in the Navy when he got out of high school, and then when he got out of the Navy, he started driving trucks. So as long as I can remember, even as a little kid, he was always a truck driver, and we would go not on some trips, not very long trips, shorter little runs where he could come back that night or whatever, or stuff like that. But sometimes he'd bring his truck home. He was a company driver, and he still drives to this day. Back in the early 2000s, I had a job, and I was an independent distributor selling cookies and potato chips to grocery stores, an independent distributor like the Little Debbie guy and stuff. And they decided they wanted to buy all the routes back. It was for Kellogg's, Keebler. And so they gave us a buyout option. We were pretty much forced to sell it back. And so I got my check and tried to figure out what I wanted to do with life after that. I was already married, and my daughter, my youngest one was born. And so I said, well, I guess I'll go to truck driving school. So they had one about 30 minutes from the house at a state-run community college, and they just so happened they were having it for free. You could go for free. You just had to pay a $25 registration fee that they end up refunding it to you the next week. But you had to pay it that day to register, and then you get a check back the next week of $25. So it was truly a free course. Mm-hmm. And it was 6 weeks. And after week number 5, I got my CDL at that point. We had to go back for one more week when we truly took the trips. We would go to Texas, Shreveport, Mississippi, and I got a job. It was the week of Thanksgiving. We didn't have class, and I got a job, and the guy wanted me to start that Monday of Thanksgiving week.
Did they help you line up a job?
No, sir. School? I got this on my own. Gotcha. The company my dad worked for, and it was the local yard by the house in the oil field, hauling oil field supplies to drilling rigs and stuff on land. And I knew the manager. He used to work with my dad. And I went and met him and for an interview. And the next day I was at work working on my week out of class. Mm-hmm. And so when I told him, I said, I got to go back to truck driving school. He goes, there's no way you can get out of it. I said, I don't know. I can call the instructor and ask. So I called the instructor on a Sunday evening and told them, I said, look, I've been working all week. I've been driving all over. And then I said, do I have to come back to class? And he said, if you can get me a signed letterhead stating that you've drove, how many hours have you drove? I said, I've been driving 9-10 hours a day all week. Even on Thanksgiving, I was working. And he said, yeah, just have them send it to me. He goes, you don't have to worry about coming back. And I didn't. I stayed at work.
They send you a certificate or something?
They did. They sure did. Yep. So it's been in a truck ever since.
That's awesome.
And that was in 2007.
So you've been doing it a while.
Yes, sir.
Getting close to that 20-year mark.
Yep.
What I never did get back. Also, I know you're talking about your family and stuff. What do you guys do in your off time? Y'all take vacations? Do you just hang out at the house? Or?
Yeah, we do a lot of hanging out at the house. We're kind of foodies. We'll take a trip 2-3 hours away just to eat lunch somewhere.
My kind of people.
Really?
And just a lot of times it's not really worth it. You did all the hype.
How do you find out about them?
Just from watching TV shows or on Facebook, social media.
Okay.
Especially if it's a town we've never been to, or the family hasn't been to. I've passed through almost everywhere, but or I'll see one somewhere, and I'll tell my wife about it. I'm like, that place looks like it'd be a pretty cool place to go eat. So we'll plan on a Saturday just to drive over there and check it out. And then if we're not doing that, I like to hunt. Try to do a little fishing when I can, but mainly hunting's the main thing.
My wife does that. I need to give her a little plug on this because she has a Liz and Leah Day, her friend Leah.
Yeah.
And they go like once a month or once every couple months. They take a Friday and they go to some place in Arkansas. They'll have it mapped to go one part of the state, and they go do their flea markets and find places, go places to eat that are supposed to be good. And they she does always taking pictures of Liz and Leah Day, so y'all need to look that up.
Yeah. They need a podcast.
But the best part about this part is she has found me the best chocolate chip cookie I have ever eaten in my life.
Really?
Yep.
Where's it at?
I can't tell you.
Don't stop there.
I can't tell you. It is made by this lady. She is fantastic. It's an older lady. It's this little antique store, and she's always got them in that glass bowl over there, and they're about that big around. And
you're not going to tell us where they are.
I don't know. I'm a little afraid to. I went up there the other day. We went through there Saturday because we were on a little trip, me and my wife, and I bought 10 of them. And she says, you like for me to heat that up for you, honey? I said, no, that's all right. She says, well, I'm going to have to make another batch. And she's telling me. So what we got to do now is put in our order before we get there if we're going to buy a bunch of them.
So it's just like a one-person operation kind of thing.
It is. It is fantastic.
The most
I'll narrow it down for you. It's on Highway 65 towards Harrison.
Okay. That does nothing for me, but I'll look it up whenever I go back
wants your
to my
business,
computer.
but she's kind of mad you bought all her cookies.
It's close to the town of Pendle.
Okay.
That'll really narrow it down for you when you look up Pendle.
Okay. I'll do that. I was just going to say
Fantastic.
the most interesting part of that story is that you got 10 cookies. What was that, Saturday? And you didn't bring any of them to
No,
work?
I'm not bringing any of them.
You could have lied and told everybody that you
Well,
made
because,
those.
they're 2 hours away. It's not like I can just go pick up another 10. My wife did. She had to save 2 of them for somebody, but I'm like, I'm not. I don't want a good thing. It's Adrian. You said you like to fish or something. You don't want to give up a good spot right off.
No.
The next thing you know, everybody's in there and the fishing's not any good anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. So I kind of keep it a little close to the chest.
Right.
Anyway, off the rails again. What kind of truck you on?
I got a 2018 Kenworth T880.
Oh yeah, got it from Keith.
Keith, yes sir.
Did you?
Yes,
How's that experience?
It was very, very easy. I knew when I had applied to come here, it was 8 months before I even wanted to actually come here. So I had plenty of time to look. And I told them what kind of truck I was wanting. And I kind of gave them some very narrow parameters on certain issues that I wanted my truck to have. So it took them a while. I mean, in some parts, and like I didn't really want to start looking so early. Mm-hmm. There's no sense in trying 4 months out. I'm not going to buy a truck 4 months and just have it sit at the house. So I kind of told them what I was looking for, but also told them when I was actually going to get it. Not to waste anybody's time. So when it finally came time to finally start looking, he found that truck. They hadn't even bought it yet. It was still at his scouts or whoever he has that goes to buy trucks. Sent him that picture, and he sent me a text message at 7:00 at night on a Monday afternoon to ask me if that was something I was interested in. And I said, yes, it is very much. I still need a little bit more information about it because he didn't have any information. He had just a picture
Okay.
No idea what the interior was, the engine, transmission, nothing. Just the truck from the outside. So about 3 days later, he finally got the information that I needed, and I put a small down payment on it to hold it for that 30 days, for me to be able to get it before somebody else got it.
Good.
So, yeah, I've been having pretty good luck with it.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, it's a truck.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and you were talking about some, maintenance. We were talking about it before we come up here on just how expensive stuff is.
Right.
And you'd got some bad def in your def tank and just, frustrating.
Very, very unfortunate.
When it comes to breakdowns and maintenance is trying, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's that on your cap?
That's my company's name, Scruffy Transportation.
Explain that one.
Scruffy was our dog we had. At my old job, she was a stray dog, a feral dog. Me and a couple other employees would put food out for her. Everybody watched out for her. She was just the yard dog. Nobody, you couldn't pet her. She wouldn't come to you. She just hang around. She loved to lay in the middle of the parking lot. She'd lay in the street. Didn't care. Trucks would go around there. She didn't move. She just did not care. She lived her own little life, and we were in her world, And she survived hurricanes, floods, ice storms, everything we had down there in the last 10, 12 years down and around Lake Charles and Sulphur, Louisiana. And all of a sudden she come missing one day. And me and the drivers got to talking to each other. You seen her? No, hadn't seen her at all. Well, something must have got her. Nobody's seen her for a while. Fast forward another, 2 months, I guess. We seen on Facebook that the local pit bull rescue there in Lake Charles was looking for a foster home for a dog. And everybody was, man, that looks like Scruffy. That looks like Scruffy. And she had an ear that would flop over. It stayed like that. But they had cleaned her up. They cut her, shaved her down, and she was just, we had a petroleum coke yard behind where I used to work at. So that's very dusty, black, dirt. It's nasty. And she would lay in that stuff and just run around in it and just did whatever she wanted to do.
Right.
And so they were looking for a foster home. And everybody I was talking to, they're like, man, you ought to get her. You ought to get her. And I'm like, no, I don't know. And I don't know. So I asked my wife about it. And she's like, if we do, we're not going to foster her. We're going to get her to keep her. We're going to adopt her. So I got in touch with the animal rescue. Come to find out, I knew a lady, or my wife knew a lady that worked there. And I sent them pictures from my phone of her that I've taken over the years of her just laying on the ground, walking around. She'd bring her little food bowl with her around and just set it down. And so when they saw that, I'm like, I know this dog. I really want to adopt her. I don't want to foster her or whatever. So they said, okay, we'll do the application and everything. They waived the fees. They come checked our house out. They did their due diligence of when they going to let somebody adopt the dog. They come check your house out and stuff. So we passed all that. And I think it was 2 or 3 days later, the lady who actually was fostering her lived in the town I live in, just 5 blocks away. We never knew all this time that's where the dog was.
Really?
Wow.
The whole time. So we got her and, she was scared. I was scared because she was a feral dog, and now all of a sudden she's in our house in a cage, and she's really terrified of people. But it was slowly, over the time, she would get easier to work, not work with. She never growled at us. She never showed aggression at all.
Right.
Never would bark. We made her a nice little bed out of an old comforter. It was, that thick, and she'd lay there, and she learned very quickly to go outside to use the bathroom. I mean, I was shocked at how fast, for living outside for 12 plus years on your own. Now you're house trained very fast. And so that's all she would do. She would lay in her bed, go use the bathroom, eat. We tried to love on her. She never knew what affection was.
Right.
You would hold her and pet on her and love on her, and she just lay there. She wouldn't look like she was enjoying it or anything, but she wouldn't fight you. And as soon as you would let up, she'd take off and go back to her bed. She was done. And we had her a little over a year, and she ended up, I'll never forget, I was in the shower. It was late, 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. My wife told me something's up. The earlier that day, she had an accident in the house, which was not like her at all. And she was panting, very labored breathing. So they have an emergency vet there in Lake Charles. We brought her in, and they done tests, checked this and that, and it was basically she had cancer, stage 4 or 5, tumors. That's what was causing the labored breathing and stuff like that. And with her age and everything, I mean, it was just best to put her down.
How old do you think she was?
We were estimating between 12 to 15 years.
Oh, wow.
That we know of. The people, I was at that job for 10 years, and she was already that size. And the people that were there longer than me always remembered her that size. And that was like 15 years was the longest anybody could really remember her being around.
And what kind of dog was it?
Don't know. It was just I think the vet kind of said what it was, but I don't remember what it was. So, of course we took that hard, very, very hard. And it just so happened I hadn't come up with my business name yet. So in the process of trying to think of a name, I come up with that, Scruffy Transportation, and sending my stuff to the state, and it was approved. And I hadn't told my wife anything about it.
Oh, really?
So when they sent me the email stating that it was confirmed, I am now an official business owner with the title, I showed my wife the email, and I mean she just lost it.
Nice surprise.
Yeah.
Nice surprise.
So
Scruffy lives on.
She does. I got her paw print tattoo.
Aww.
And my wife has her other paw print on her forearm, and she actually looks pretty close to the logo I have on my truck. The graphic designer I hired to do that had me send in photos of her, and really got the cartoon to try to match the color scheme and everything. And he did a really good job.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I never met the man. It was all online. I don't even know where he was from, but he did a very good job.
Well, it stands out on your cap there. That's why
thank
I was
you.
asking. I had no idea.
Right.
Good story, though. Really good story.
Yes, sir.
Being an owner-operator, now I guess, were you an owner-operator before you came here?
No, sir. This is my first time.
First time, yeah, because you bought your truck. So first-time owner-operator. There's some challenges when it comes to that,
right.
Making that step from company driver to owner-operator. What's some of those biggest challenges, Adrian, that you went through?
The biggest challenges really for me, just knowing that you went from a job where you were almost guaranteed hours every week to being at the mercy of the freight world. One thing that I was happy or not stressed too much about was knowing that I didn't have to find my work. Oakley was going to handle that for me with the dispatchers. So, I know with some of them guys running your own authority, you kind of need a spouse or somebody to be looking at load boards while you're driving to try to figure out where you're going to go next. And I'm glad I didn't have to worry about that. Just trying to make sure you have enough money saved up before you get started. Sometimes it's just as simple as what kind of tires you want to run on your truck, Some more expensive than others. Some last longer. Just, try to keep your truck maintenance up, and try to, pray that you don't get broke down. Yeah. That's the main thing for me.
That seems to be a pretty common theme with everybody.
It is.
Especially people that have never done it before. Is money management.
Maintenance will hit you in the pocketbook very fast. Mm-hmm. Breakdowns. Average shops, repair shops now are double hourly rates than what they were just a year ago. Mm-hmm. Some of them, especially the dealership shops, they're very, very expensive.
What would you, so on this side of things, you've been an owner-operator for about a year and a half. So what would this year's Adrian say to 2 years ago? I'd be like, this is what, I'm giving you the deets, the lowdown on becoming an owner-operator. Right. Here's what I've learned so far.
I'd have waited to buy my truck. The way the market was when I came in, it was not a very good time. Realistically looking back, had I held out 6 months or maybe bought one 6 months earlier, I kind of caught it at that weird window.
Mm-hmm. Where used truck prices were escalating.
Way up, right.
Yeah. And now they're tanking.
I've found trucks, not that I'm looking, but just ads online pop up, and a truck that is mine's a 2018. I'm seeing 2021s for sale for less than what I bought my truck. Yeah. With the same mileage, same engine, and a nicer truck. I mean, just a nicer model and everything. And I was just like, wow, That's
a good point of the market being like that, because there was that time there where used trucks were just hard to come by.
I caught the last 2 weeks of it.
Yeah, and
the prices started going down. A week after orientation, I was still looking just to see what prices were doing, and they were already start going down right after I bought my truck.
Yeah. And they've continued to go down.
Yeah.
You can get a good used truck now at a reasonable price,
for
sure. So when you were looking at that, what made you look at Oakley? How in the world did you know about us?
Well, I've always, being on the road, you always see trucks on the road. And growing up around trucks, you see the eye-catching, something shiny, something pretty, whether it be the truck or the trailer. And, one thing about some of these guys at Oakley, they got a very shiny truck and trailer. Mm-hmm. You can't miss them. I mean, they're very, very dedicated to keeping their truck and trailer very clean and polished and just very clean. So I always knew the company. Didn't quite realize they were owner-operators at the time, years ago. And then once I found out that they were, at that point, years ago, I didn't even have a dream of coming over here, because I was like, oh, I'll never be an owner-operator. I mean, there's no way. And but then as time goes on, start looking around, just constantly kind of just looking for a company driver position, just seeing what's out there. I seen an ad on Facebook and for Oakley through like a third-party site. And I just commented, I think I commented, like, if y'all are leasing on in my zip code. And, like, I don't think the next day, a friend of mine that I used to work with, he had called me, and we hadn't talked for almost probably 6-7 months. And he said, man, are you interested in coming to Oakley? I said, I don't have a clue, man, at this point. I have no idea. And he goes, well, I'm starting next week. And I said, oh, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'll let you know how it is, So I said, okay. So he went through orientation and all that, and I just kept in touch with him. And I think the second week after orientation, we were talking, and I gave him my name to give to Dustin in recruiting, and it was on after that.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. It always helps when you have somebody on the inside.
Right.
You can make something sound really good, but whenever you have someone who's
right, and that's what he was telling me. I'd mentioned to you that when I was in orientation, as soon as my buddy came over here, he had told me about the podcast, so when I came to orientation, I was already up to date on every podcast there ever was through Oakley before I walked through the doors, and learned a lot.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of how things operate and stuff like that before I even got here. So felt like I was kind of already a step ahead on certain aspects of the job.
Yeah, good. You mentioned earlier one of the reliefs were it was up to your dispatcher to find loads. You didn't have to have somebody, you didn't have to do that. Your wife didn't have to do that.
Right.
Talk about that dispatcher relationship you have.
Yeah, I have.
Because I think a lot of people, that's one of their big worries before they come to a place is, dispatcher is going to have control of me, or he's going to tell me where I need to go and all this stuff. And people worry about that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's an unnecessary worry, but they do worry about that. And you do have to have a good relationship, right?
Right, you do. One thing I've liked when I came over here, or even before I came here, I learned that the dispatcher is, however, I don't know how it's set up, but part of their income comes from their trucks, or however it's. I might not be wording that right, but so they have it in their best interest to keep you moving, keep you rolling, and as long as you stay in communication with them, let them know when you're broke down, or hey, look, when I come in, I always, if I'm coming home for the weekend and I have to have my truck in the shop, I let them know on Wednesday. Don't even start planning anything for Monday morning, because I don't know if my truck's gonna be ready.
Yeah.
So I don't want him to waste his time to get me a load thinking that it's going to be ready on Monday. I always make sure I call them Monday morning while I'm sitting in the truck, already paid for, got my receipt. Okay, now we're ready to go. Now you can look for me a load. Yeah. And generally, it'll take them 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes. First thing 7, I call him at 7. He hadn't even sat down yet, and that phone's ringing. Hey, my truck's ready. Where am I going?
Yeah,
I'm ready to go. But it is very good. I think like this morning, I think it might be the first or second time I've ever even went and talked to them in person. Just because I don't get up here too much, right. But I also know how busy they are.
It's just the two guys, for how many pneumatics do we have? Did you say, Jeremy?
We got 200.
Yeah. Split
right.
between just.
No, we got several dispatchers. For what?
Oh, never mind. I was thinking of vacuum tank. This whole time.
Vac tank?
The whole time.
No, we don't have many of those.
Okay, well, just kidding about what I just
I
said.
call him every morning as soon as I can. It's good morning, how you doing? On Mondays, it's hey, good morning, how was your weekend? And then it's down to business. Hey, look, I'm loaded now, or I should be there at 1:00 to get loaded. And I'll be there tomorrow to unload at this time, around this time, or anything that's going on. If I need to pass through reserve to get a little maintenance done on the trailer, that's typically kind of where I run a lot towards that yard. But other than that, it's short and sweet, and he's got a lot of stuff to. When I realize how much stuff they have to do, the paperwork, our paperwork, all our loads, all the drivers they have, I don't tie them up on the phone very long.
Yeah. Busy fellers. You go to Canada occasionally too with that.
Mm-hmm.
Those tanks too.
Right.
Well, it's obvious to me. You're proud to be a truck driver.
Yes, sir.
You enjoy it, or you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy it very much.
And what do you enjoy so much about being a truck driver?
Mainly just getting paid to sightsee, to go down the road. There's so many places.
But you can't stop at them.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Matter of fact, going back to the bad contaminated DEF problem, I was in Bainbridge, Georgia last week. I was washed out. I was parked up for the evening. I had an appointment early the next morning 20 minutes down the road at the customer. And phone rings, and it's not my dispatcher. I look at the clock. It's 2 minutes to 5 Central. I'm in Eastern. So, oh, man, this ain't good. So he goes, hey, man, got a little change of plans for you.
Oh, man.
I said, really? He goes, yeah. We need you to be in Savannah in the morning. Okay. Never been to Savannah before. I'm not sure how far it is away from where I'm at. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. That's cool. It's more miles, and it was still heading right back towards the house. So I got off the phone with them and got everything. I'd cooked supper in my truck and picked everything up and got on my phone, started looking up the address of where I needed to go, and took off and stopped for the night. The next morning I got there going through Savannah, and I don't know if I've ever seen a more beautiful city.
Really?
It is so. I told my wife on the phone, I was like, we're going to come over here and spend a weekend or two, or extended weekend. Mm-hmm. It's so pretty.
Savannah, Georgia?
It's Savannah, Georgia. It
Really?
is a very old town, and I love history.
Okay.
And the old buildings. I went to the one of the ports they have over there, and you drive straight through. 4 or 5 story buildings that are, I couldn't even guess how old they are, but they're definitely not new. They're very old, and the businesses nowadays have moved into them, where there's a building that looks like it was built in the early 1900s, but at the first floor is a Five Guys Burgers in it.
Wow.
And it's not decorated like the normal storefronts.
Right.
And it's just beautiful trees along the water. You can take trolley tours. And when I seen that, I was like, oh, yeah, we're going to make the trip, just to go over there.
Get it planned.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of places to eat.
I got 2 more questions for you.
All right.
And then we'll wrap this thing up. One is what would – I've asked this of several owner-operators I've had on here. What do you want the general public, people that are out there, to know about truck drivers?
Okay. That could have a lot of several answers.
Truck drivers and trucking companies kind of have a bad reputation.
Right.
Which is
a lot of times. First off, we're all human beings in general. It don't matter what you're driving, so you need to respect one another. We don't want you to cut in front of us more than you want to get behind us or whatever, because we're not moving the same speed you're moving. But we do have blind spots. Yeah, sometimes you can get into one. I have mirrors on both sides of my hood, where mine are pretty minimal. But every once in a while, you'll catch one. All of a sudden, whoa, where'd they come from? Yeah. But just give us a lot of space. Know what the merge lanes are. The acceleration ramps on the interstate are for. That's for you to get up to speed, not to come on the interstate at 35. If you're in a pickup truck, that's not good.
Very good point.
That's not
I have
good.
to agree with that one.
We can't always move over, and sometimes you think we can move over, or we think we can move over. Then the last minute somebody cuts us off, so now we can't move over, and now we really got to get on our brakes because you already cut in front of us. And that's where that happens a lot. A lot of accidents happen. Construction zones are another one. Don't ever ride on the side of a truck in a construction zone and barricades. Just please don't. We're not comfortable. You're not comfortable, and the room for error is very, very minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's very true stuff, right?
Yeah,
there.
it is. Construction zones are the number one thing. And when wrecks happen, they happen quick and very bad in construction zones. Yep. There's nowhere to go. Yeah. So we could have been a 2-vehicle wreck on an open interstate is now a 10 or 12.
Yeah. Last question: what does, unless Megan's got one? last question is, what does the future look like for Adrian Guillot?
My future
and Scruffy Trucking.
Right. My future. I'm 42. Plan on probably staying in pneumatics till I'm around 60, and then just get an old hopper bottom and run that thing out till I'm ready to give it up.
There you go. Good plan.
Yeah.
Good plan.
Yep.
That's a good plan.
They still got a lot of. I've seen some pneumatic guys out there that, I talk to them, especially the older guys, and I hope I can get around like they do at their age, climbing up on that trailer. They take their time.
Yeah.
They move slow, but they get it done.
Yeah.
Fantastic episode. Adrian, appreciate you taking your time.
Thank y'all.
Come up here and visit with us a little bit and letting our listeners learn another success story about Oakley owner-operators. And just for the record, we just called you this morning,
Right.
and said this was not rehearsed or set up or anything.
Yeah, I saw the email pop up. I didn't even leave Sawyer's desk yet, and it was already an email. Hey, does he want to do the podcast?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know.
I mean, it's it's part of it. Like I said earlier, Megan, we probably won't have anybody coming to the yard anymore because they're afraid we're going.
We need to have everybody sign an NDA. It's like you don't talk about this when you leave the yard.
Right. Well, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate everybody listening to the Oakley Podcast and every week, and you guys mean a lot. Oh, one other thing. We did a question last episode. I was going to do another one. I want to try to get some comments from our listeners out there to let us know what you think. And the question that we're going to put out today is, what is your strategy? I probably should ask you this. What is your strategy for finding a place to park every night? So hold that, Adrian. So, that's I know that's got to be people that are not truck drivers are like, what is he talking about? Why is it a strategy to find a place to park? But it is, isn't it, Adrian?
It is.
So I'd love to hear from everybody on that. What's your strategy? How do you find a place to park? What's your little routine that you figure out when you're in a different place every day? So thanks, everybody, for listening to the Oakley Podcast. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.